Hey Sunrise, it's Andrew here with your small group questions for this week as we dive into the conclusion of Genesis 18. So last week we talked about the coming of the Lord and the two angels to give the proclamation once again of the coming of the Son who would bring the fulfillment of the promise to Abram. And now we come to the conclusion of this text as we see Abram before the Lord pleading for Sodom. Now, as you open up the text, at the very beginning, we have this internal monologue of Yahweh as to whether or not to tell Abram. As you read that part, what stands out to you about that inner monologue? What is Yahweh's thought process in the text here? And then ultimately, why does he tell Abram? How do these things go together? And why does the author give us that monologue? And so as you work through this text, what are some of the things that stand out that we've already seen in Genesis, such as the outcry against Sodom? We hear this outcry is going to come up throughout the New Testament, but that idea there, what is the outcry? And also, then looking back, going back a little bit farther, what is the idea of God coming down in judgment? We saw this back in Babel. We've seen it alluded to in other places. What does it mean of the Lord condescending here? So as you work through this very opening part, we're beginning to get a picture of what God intends to do. And then that sets up for us his conversation here with Abraham. Now as you read Abraham's discussion with the Lord, his continually, some will say bargain with the Lord, what is Abraham doing? From this text, what do we see Abraham seeking to accomplish? And then from that, what is he really appealing to about God? What do we learn about God through Abraham's appeal? And then as you think about these things, a very quick, even our own application, would you do the same thing that Abraham is doing? Would you bargain for the salvation or for the preservation of the lost in this text, the wicked as we see? Because clearly Abraham is not delusional. He knows what is transpiring in Sodom. Again, Lot lives there, and yet here we see him pleading for them. And so ultimately, what do we learn about God again as we conclude the conversation with Abram? How God interacts with Abraham, and also how Abraham interacts with God. What do we learn about God? What do we learn about Abraham? Then ultimately, what are some of the things that we learn about prayer and the Christian life through this text? So again, there's a lot to unpack. There's going to be more that comes out in the sermon on Sunday. But these are just some starting points to really begin to think through what is transpiring in the text before us. Hope that you'll have a wonderful time studying the Word at home, hearing the Word proclaimed on Sunday morning, and then again discussing these things in our small groups throughout the week. Hope that you guys have a great week, and we'll see you on Sunday.